Hey everybody, we got our countdown to ÖTILLÖ show. We're 2 months out from ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship.
Careening towards it.
It's coming whether we like it or not. Hear how we're feeling, how's the mind, how's the body, how's the soul on this episode of the Low Tide Boys. Hit it. Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 131 of the show. This is the fourth and penultimate edition of our Countdown to ÖTILLÖ show, where we discuss our journey to the start line of the 2022 ÖTILLÖ, the Swimrun World Championship. It's actually kind of hard to believe that we're just 2 months away from the big day. We're just careening towards this massive event. Joining us on this episode to talk about all things ÖTILLÖ is returning guest Jonas Colting. Last time we had Jonas on the show was way back in episode 11, and it was great to have him back on the show and get his perspective on ÖTILLÖ as only individual to start every single championship. Every single edition, he's been there. This is an awesome chat. I loved it.
It was amazing, and I didn't expect it to be such a. I felt so remotivated and pumped after. It was a great conversation.
But first.
Yes, we have to. All this wouldn't be possible without giving a giant thank you to our supporters, Odyssey Swimrun, Frank Paddle, and Precision Fuel and Hydration for making all this possible. We got some discount codes to share with you all here, so stay tuned. So if you are looking to up your fuel and hydration game for your swim runs or whatever endurance events you're doing, use the code LOWTIDE22, and that will save you 15% off your first order.
Wink, wink.
First order. With whatever email address. We've been testing out all their stuff, using it, love it. Yeah. We have multiple episodes if you want to hear some serious knowledge drop from Andy Blow, Abby Coleman, all sorts of stuff going on there. Secondly, Odyssey Swimrun, we're super stoked to be racing Odyssey's Casco Bay here in just a couple weeks, and you can use the code LOWTIDEBOYS with the Z. And that's good for 15% off your registration to any of the Odyssey Swimrun events. So that'll cover you for all 4 races they have.
Including Casco.
Including Casco.
Make a last-minute decision. We love that.
Get out there.
Let's do it.
Get out there. And we have plenty of course previews for the short course and the long course for that, and pretty much every other race that Odyssey does. We love partnering with Odyssey. Finally, big thank you and shout out to Frank Paddle. Frank Paddle has some new paddle, the Pro models. So they're en route from Sweden. So we're really excited to get our hands on those.
Waiting
as patiently as possible for those things. But they look really cool. I think they are either sold out or very close to sell out. So make sure you head on over to the Instagram for Frank Paddle. All that's in the show notes there. Yeah. Definitely check out those if you're interested in the latest evolution in carbon fiber swim paddle technology.
I mean, you had me at carbon fiber.
I was sold already. I'm excited to get on those.
I mean, I love my Frank paddles. I'll shout it from the mountaintops.
I don't. How can they get better? Well, we're going to find out soon with the Pro models.
Right.
Once we get those. So 2 months out, 60 days away. We're closer than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Every day gets closer.
Yeah.
How's the body? How's the mind segment? Now.
Yeah.
Are we? Who's kicking it off? Did I kick it off last time? I'll ask you, Chris. How's the body? How's the mind?
Well, the body. There's been some adversity this past month. As some of you, if you listen to some of our previous shows, so I got COVID. My whole family got COVID. So it turns out I really ended up missing about a week of training, which everyone keeps telling me in hindsight that was probably the best thing that could have possibly happened around this time.
Yeah.
To just kind of have to take it back and sort of get some perspective on what's going on and have some space to think about things, which I think was good. And I was worried. I don't know if I was going to get a lot of sort of COVID effects or whatever. Like my cousin got COVID. He lives in Florida. He's had like heart problems now.
Oh boy.
So just like crazy stuff. But it's looking like I'm bouncing back okay. Got a pretty massive week of training in last week. Chipper, you and I did this like basically this 4-hour race sim.
Yeah.
For Casco, and it was great. It was great, and that got me thinking, sort of related to conversation with Jonas because we basically had this crazy workout. Then we chatted with Jonas a few days later. And it got me thinking about, I'm obviously, this kind of goes into more of the mind section, but it's like, I'm obviously super stoked about this race. Been thinking about it, talking about it, dreaming about it. And it's great that, I feel like up until this month, and I don't know if it was COVID or talking to Jonas or whatever, but, I've been thinking about, one thing that just kind of hit me this month is like the fact that I get to do it with like one of my best friends. And the fact that it's like, it's kind of like a different thing where it's like, yeah, we're going there, we're going to do this thing. But it's also, I get to do it with like my buddy who I've done all this stuff with.
Another day having fun out there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, we've done crazy stuff together. People have heard about our double century rides and stuff. And like, but this is just yet another crazy thing. And it just got me really kind of stoked on it on this different level where it's like, yeah, we're going to go do this thing. It's going to be awesome. History, Disneyland, all the stuff we've been saying, but it's also like, oh yeah, we actually get to do it together and like share yet another like really cool experience. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about.
Nice. I echo those. Those are nice things, and I agree. It is something I think that's kind of what keeps us so drawn to this sport is that it is something we get to share, and yeah. We have the podcast, and that like is another layer on top of this and everything as well. But it's just it makes
sometimes
it that much
a burden.
But
let's be honest,
it is just such a cool experience. If you did it solo, it'd be insane as well. But with the partner, it has that extra element that just there's something about it. It's kind of hard to explain, but it does pull you in a little bit more. And I'm very much looking forward to being out there.
Yeah.
And spending a lot of hours out there.
Oh, it's going to be a long day.
Long day.
How about you, Chipper? How's the body? How's the mind?
So last month, I feel like, or the last time we had our check-in, there was a lot I felt like kind of my mind, it was a lot of, I don't know the best, it was sort of, there was a lot of outside distractions.
Right.
Outside of
and I feel like things were ramping up on like we knew the training was going to ramp up.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff going on around the house and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So this month I feel a little bit better on that end, and related to the body, I felt this was probably one of the most solid blocks of training that I've had. I mean, when I struggle sometimes in the past more so than recently, but to get out there by myself, and it's a huge help for me when Chris is there texting me, okay, I'm picking you up at 5:30 or at 5 or at 4, like whatever these crazy early morning workouts are. And it's helped. It gets my ass out of the bed, right, to go do a 40-minute run before, like basically we got to get 2 hours plus of running and swimming on Thursdays usually before. And maybe it's just my mindset has shifted a little bit, but kind of the week when you were down for the count, we hadn't been working out as much, and I've been very much sort of self-motivated to get out, and I've been seeing the results of that. And
well, from my side of things, it was super motivating for me because I was like, oh man, he's fucking
yeah,
it's just like
just doing it,
just crushing these swims, just getting it in, And I think like something that you touched on is I think we're both getting to a point where we have just like a lot of equanimity about this whole thing, which is just like, and this is, I've been thinking about this a lot because I just read Steve Magnus's new book. This is a shameless plug, Do Hard Things. Check it out. Let me know what you think about it. I'm happy to talk your ear off about this book. Awesome. It just came out. But in that book, one of the things that sort of really allows you to have real toughness is the idea of like trying to find a place where you can maintain this equanimity, which is basically like keeping your composure, staying calm, like dealing through the ups and downs and just having like a good perspective. And I feel like for you, I've noticed it in your training. Also how you've been basically dealing with me being sick boy over here. Like it's just like you just seem like you it could be a facade. It's fine if it is, but it's like you're just like you feel really grounded right now. Like you know what you're doing, you know what's ahead, and you're just doing the work. Yeah,
and I feel like from preparedness from the workouts that we're getting, like this last month, I mean, besides just complaining nonstop to my wife about how sore I am constantly and can she use a Theragun on me some more, you know, I'm like finishing. The workouts are getting done and we're doing it, and I'm like, I'm going to be a fucking savage at this race. Like I just feel like 3-day swimming 4 or 5 days in a row, 4,000, 6,000, 6,000, 5,000 yard swim. I mean, that is unprecedented amounts of volume that
It's a lot of swimming.
that I've done. And then hitting faster numbers every time. It's just like, it's really great. And I guess it feels like a humble brag now, but you know, the training is showing itself and that it's working and everything. And,
I mean, I think
I've been enjoying that.
I think it also helps just everything in terms of just attitude and being stoked on it. The fact that it's just like, oh, well, at least we're making progress and we understand we got 10K of swimming, but I'm not worried about 10Ks of swimming.
Yeah, and I'm really, really looking forward to Casco Bay in a couple weeks. It kind of feels a little bit like the reverse of Orcas. Like last year at Orcas, I had an injury that took me out for kind of about the same week, and I couldn't run or swim, and then it was kind of like, oh, we got to the race, and it's like, I'll do the best I can. I know Chris is going to put his best effort out there. I'm going to put mine out there, and I am going to have to lead every swim, I'm pretty sure, though.
Well, you know, we'll see. I mean, I wanna be just like a normal contributor. I'm going to go for just normal contributions.
But, you know, I've relatively become quite boring. I'm going to bed at reasonable hours so I can wake up, making sure I'm, you know, eating and fueling and nutrition is kind of dialed in. Like I'm really trying to kind of hone everything in. But just feeling really, really ready to go.
Totally.
For Casco.
I mean, and I think
super prepared.
This is going to be a very love festy show. Including a conversation with Jonas, which we'll get to in a second. I think even the way you described it is like, I know I might have to lead every swim, and you're just like, if that's what I have to do, I'm prepared and willing and able to do it.
Yep.
And Orcas, when the shoe was on the other foot, so to speak, like I was prepared and willing to do it. And I think that's just a testament to our partnership, sticking with training and just doing the work, and, you know, kind of understanding that we have this lofty goal ahead of us.
Yeah.
And to do that, we kind of have to stay in the process. Having a good Casco Bay race is going to be good for our just testing everything.
Yeah.
It's really our last tune-up race because you can't really count Folsom Swim Run.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Which is good too.
Yeah.
Swimmer's
we need to have
supposed
fun too.
I mean, Casco's going to be fun, but like, you know, quotes like fun.
Yeah. And we had a really positive course simulation that we did 4-hour swim run. And we had a lot of, we've been really focusing on our fueling and hydration during that. And again, every one of these simulations, I'm just trying to ingest the most Andy Blow content I can and anything coming out of there because it's just so useful and there's so many insights. And every simulation starting from not a simulation, Swimrun Lake James, I had the most gels I've ever had there. The next simulation, I even increased that. Mm-hmm. And the recent one, I was like right in the preferred range that they give out.
Well,
and
I'll give you a crazy example. So just from when we're recording this a couple days ago, I was in Monterey with my family going to the aquarium and stuff. I did this run that I always love to do around Lovers Point in Pacific Grove, where they used to do the Pack Grove Tri, which was my first triathlon.
Mm-hmm. 7 laps on the run and sit on the bike or some craziness like that.
Crazy. I love running by there. It's just a great reminder of like everything.
Yeah.
So I ran for maybe like an hour and a half or something like that. I took 4 gels just to see how many gels I could take.
Yeah.
Every 20 minutes, I just took another gel, and
nice.
You know, mostly to see like, you know, when is my gut like when is this gut bomb going to go off? But yeah, just to put in the work and just be like, all right, this is gut training. This is going to be like a sort of a chill zone 2.5 run. Just see how much I can take. And I took 4 gels and
nice.
Full of energy afterwards. I think what people don't think about is if you take a ton of gels, you're actually not totally destroyed after your workout.
That was something that I have noticed as well. The better that you fuel your big efforts, the easier the recovery is on the back end. And that's not just talking about, oh, let me get a protein shake or whatever after. That's also important. But if you execute your fueling strategy better during the actual event,
Yep.
you're still hurting.
But you're not as big as a deficit.
Yeah, you're not like literally horizontal on the couch. Like, I can't move because I just burned 3,200 calories and took in 500. Like that math is going to be that's not a good. I'll put you in a bad way real quick.
Yeah. But hopefully when this comes out, it'll be a weekish from Casco. Take a ton of gels.
Yeah.
See what happens, but I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, a little nervous just because of having been sick or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not concerned for you.
Yeah, still gonna be fun.
But yeah, one little tip we also put out on our Instagram account. We did a reel. We did a little bit of a debrief from our workout there, and we shared it on there as well. But I've really been loving the Precision Fuel and Hydration, the jumbo gels. They're 90 grams of carbs. So my goal is to try to have one of those an hour. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But they have this little nozzle nipple bite valve on there, and that for me has been really enabling me to have a lot because I just take it out of my little back pouch.
You have to unscrew the top.
And just bite it, and it basically turns into a little soft flask. Take a couple hits off of it, put it back, and it's like. And I've noticed we've been really good about. We haven't really been saying, "Hey, time to fuel" or whatever, but I now notice, okay, in my peripheral, I see Chris like reaching for his gels. I'm like, oh yeah, I better get mine. And then the next time we get out on the run, we got to do it. So we're really trying to work in because swim run's hard because it's not.
Yeah, you can't do everything on 20-minute intervals.
Yeah, you can't. Oh, my 30-minute timer.
You can't stop in the middle of the pig swing. Hey, Chipper, take a pull out of.
Can you
90.
throw the Twix over here? I need a fuel. Thank you. After the pig swim. So I've been loving that little thing. So if you are enjoying the precision jumbo gel things, take a look at that little. I think it's like $4 or $5. Throw one or two of those in your next bid, and
definitely. And you can get 15% off.
That's true.
Use the code LOWTIDE.
If you're gonna just get 50% off that, I would just load up on other stuff. Don't blow the 50% off on just a $5 thing. That's my bid on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and we got our equipment. Arc has been releasing new suits left and right here, so we got some new stuff that we're testing out and everything. So getting really excited about that. We're actually hearing the water temps over in Sweden are not as chilly as one might expect. So very interesting.
Yeah, all part of our conversation with Jonas.
Yeah,
which Jonas is awesome. I mean, full stop. Basically, I mean, I actually feel almost embarrassed that we haven't had him on the show since Catalina. I mean, he's a Swedish endurance legend, and we sat down with him and talked about the World Championship, what keeps him coming back year after year to the original swim run. And as we were saying before, like this conversation just got me even more super stoked than I already was, like super duper stoked, because his enthusiasm for it, like he sees it. I mean, he sees it the way we see it, which is just like, hey, here's this amazing thing that exists. That everyone who does it thinks it's like a really unique experience. And it was just really great to chat with.
Yeah, it was good. And I mean, we have, it's crazy to think about when we first chatted with him, how far we've come in many different aspects of swim run to the conversation that we had today.
Yeah. And we chat about it a little bit. I'm just like, hey, we feel like we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but we're kind of taking it all in. And he had great feedback on that. And
and it's
training tips.
It's great confirmation too to hear all these conversations that we've been having over the last several months with these episodes. It's like what people are telling us. We're like, okay, we're doing that. Okay, we're thinking about that, and it's just you can't be prepared for everything, and we're leaving some headroom in there because there's going to be something that goes haywire, no doubt. But it's just it's reassuring to know that we're setting ourselves up for the best that we can.
And huge thank you to our coach for just also helping us. Like, I feel like
be savages.
I have no trust him implicitly. Whatever he puts on there, I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I had these conversations at the pool. They're like, lane next to me is like, what are you doing? I'm like, 6,300. They're like, how come? I'm like, I just do what I'm told. That's all. If whatever it says, I print it out, and that's what I do. Like, I don't ask questions. I just do the fucking workout. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you
They
know,
wanted
it's
some
bad.
insights
It's
or
pretty much
something.
like every swim, like people come and go in your lane. You were made.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I got to split a lane. Well, I'll just out-endure them because I'll just keep going, and there'll be a couple line changes in between here. So anyway, enough about us. Let's hear from the legend himself, Jonas Colting.
Loved this conversation.
Absolutely great.
Okay, so before we welcome Jonas to the show, so happy that he's here. I have to set the picture for folks who haven't listened to episode 11 of the podcast, which was
The
almost
early days.
over 2 years ago. So we're in Catalina. We know we're going, and we know this guy, Jonas Colting, is going to be there. And we're like, hey, this guy's super cool in the sport. He's started every single ÖTILLÖ race. So I DM him. He, for some reason, responds. And he agrees to meet us at our hotel.
Comes to our hotel.
This guy walks up, tall, tanned, beautiful, wearing aviator glasses.
He looked like an extra from the new Top Gun movie.
It was. So this guy comes in, and he's just like the most welcoming person in the world. Super great to speak with, and that I can't believe that it's been almost over 2 years since we've had you on the show, Jonas. So thank you so much for coming back. How have you been?
Oh, it's my pleasure to again be a guest on your podcast. And I must say, already the first time it was quite an honor to be invited because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you guys are the best thing that's happened to Swimrun in the past few years. It's you guys are doing such a remarkable job of sort of making an impact in the swimrun world, spreading the word on this great sport, but at the same time doing it in a very non-serious sort of. You're making fun of swimrun and you're promoting it at the same time, and that's quite an art form to be able to do that. So
Thank you.
So it's the pleasure is all mine, and it's an honor. Actually, when we met in Catalina, that was probably the last week before the pandemic really hit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the last time that I was over in the US or in Canada. And it's been a few rough years, to be honest. I think the pandemic hit us all pretty hard, and since I'm not only participating in swim runs, I'm also organizing both a swim run, like a major swim run, actually in ÖTILLÖ merit race, and a sprint series, as well as a large, pretty big triathlon. Mm-hmm. It's been pretty hard. Basically everything I do is surrounded or created around groups of people, coaching groups of people, or talking to groups of people, or just engaging groups of people. So it's been a few tough years. And although we had in my family some very positive things to weigh it up against, like we had our second son, and we bought a house and renovated. So there is always a silver lining with everything, I guess. So, but I'm just got to roll with the punches, and I just kept training all through the pandemic. I figured, I mean, with all the things and all the crazy things going on, it's never been so obvious that a person's well-being, a person's mental health, or just the status of feeling okay in the world is really heavily weighed against what you're doing with your physical body. So for me, it was so important to be able to keep training and getting out in nature, and swimming as long as swimming was permitted, or just doing other things training wise. So swimrun was actually more important than ever, I think, for a lot of people, even though there weren't any swimrun races organized.
I mean, I think Chipper and I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we were so super stoked on Swimrun after Catalina. It was such an amazing thing, and we were, we really felt like we found, being able to do an ÖTILLÖ race. We really found like, wow, this is really for us. And then to not have any races, and us essentially trying to keep the momentum going on Swimrun for all those years without any races was pretty tough. But it also got us like so much more invested in the sport, and all the feedback that we got from people just really kept telling us that we were kind of on the right track with that. And obviously one of our dreams, even before we did our first swim run, which is how I learned about swimrun, was from this book called The World's Toughest Endurance Challenges, where ÖTILLÖ was on there as one of these like amazing events. And I was like, oh my God, like my mind was already like projecting what that would be like. And Chipper and I thinking, yeah, maybe like 4 years out, we would love to be able to do that. But, you know, talk about silver lining of the pandemic, because in the US, we were able to have more merit races than in Europe. We actually got sort of lucky with ranking points, and we qualified for the World Championship this year. So It's kind of like we're probably a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of experience. But hey, we got an opportunity and we're going to take it. And we're so excited. And we thought, you know, we're 2 months, when this episode comes out, we'll be roughly 2 months out from the race. And we're like, well, why don't we talk to the person who we love, who's been on the show before, and has also started every single ÖTILLÖ that there's been. So I guess like our first question for you is, and I think we asked you this before, but I'm going to ask it again. Like, what keeps you coming back to this original race, and what is it that you love about ÖTILLÖ, the World Championship?
Well, it's so fascinating that this was the first time I did it in 2006, the inaugural race, and it was, I mean, it's pretty much the same difference as you would say comparing the first Ironman back in Oahu in 1978 and with the current Ironman. I mean, maybe that's obviously a bigger time frame, but the similarities are there. I mean, it was such a grassroots, oddball kind of race, and I hated it. Like I hated it with a vengeance. Like I was so I cursed the course over and over again, and I swore that I would never ever set foot. I mean, I would never ever set foot in the Archipelago even. And you know,
just when you come back to the area,
yeah, exactly. And then it lures you back, and it's sort of, you know, it sort of gets stuck in you. And finally, I come back a third time after having all the rule changes being made, and win it for the third time. And then just over time, it's just, you know, this race has been like, from being like an enemy, like a personal enemy, like I had a vendetta. I hated the race, and I was like, this is the most stupid race ever. And how could they, I mean, I thought it was ludicrous the way it was set up. And now it's part of my like heritage. I have some of my fondest memories from this race, and I love the race. And at least it's grown to be so close to my heart, and I'll do anything in my power to get on the start line every single year, as you know, as long as my legs will carry me, and you know, something not horrible happens, I'll be there on the start line. And it's such a, I'm so proud of Mats and Mikke, who had the foresight of building this race, even though the first few years were, I mean, there were total fiascos from all points of view, but they had the foresight that this was actually going to grow into something substantial. And I'm so happy that I stuck with it and sort of pulled my weight in promoting the sport, and sort of building from this, organizing my own swim run, being a mentor for a ton of people, coaching people how to swim, to participate in swim run, and having my wetsuit brand. And so many good things came out of sticking to this very, very sort of hard and odd race in the beginning. And for me, it's just now it's just a yearly pilgrimage during which I really sort of celebrate my own ability. Like, I'm very thankful. I do not in any way take anything for granted at all. Like, I'm so happy, like every year that I still can participate and that I'm healthy enough. It's such a grace, so to speak. So I just participate with a lot of gratitude and a lot of I don't know the word, a lot of awesomeness. Like, this is so awesome. Yeah. This is such an experience. And it's also something to keep me fit for. Like, I'll really have to do some specific training before the ÖTILLÖ every year. I mean, even though I'm in pretty good shape, it really requires something extra. Like, I would never ever underestimate ÖTILLÖ. And over the years, it's also given me the chance to participate with a number of different partners. Like, it's really it's a bonding kind of experience to do. Yeah. And I've been able to do with a number of different partners, and hopefully this year I'll participate with my wife if we find the time for her to train as well as much as she needs. We still have high hopes that she'll be the one that races with me. We've done the race together.
Awesome.
I think 3 times prior. So it would be a good thing for us to, celebrate that we now have 2 kids in a house, and we're still being able to train and participate in this race.
Yeah, I mean, you've been instrumental in some of those really early kind of rule changes and shifts with the ÖTILLÖ team, away from the inflatable Nokia rafts and the beach cruiser bicycles, which, if Michael and Mats want to leave a bicycle for us there on Orno, we'll take it and we'll ride it. Maybe Chris can be on the handlebars.
Yeah,
I'll give it
I'll sit in the basket.
Is there pegs on there? We can
probably the worst rule was the one where you had to have a life vest on top of your wetsuit. A life preservative that's what it's called. Like you had to have a life preservative on top of the wetsuit, and I was like, a wetsuit is a life preservative. I mean, try to even swim. Try to even swim under the water with a wetsuit, and you'll be hard pressed to do that. And they were like, no, we're gonna need this life preservative, and I'm not going to use fins. Do I have to bring fins? And they're like, yeah, you probably need to bring fins. Like it's in the rules. So
it's in the rules.
Yeah, it's in the rules that we just wrote. But anyway, a lot of those things, they the key to their success, and the key that ÖTILLÖ has been such a I would say prestigious race and a race series that people respect, is that Mats and Micke always had they were always humble enough to listen to the participants, and they always took in feedback from us, and they listened patiently to what we had to say, and they accustomed the race accordingly. And we've all been better for it. So after the first 2 years in 2006 and 2007, during which almost no teams actually finished the race, and the ones they did that riding their bikes on Orno. And after having changed sort of the rules, the most important one was to skip the life preservative and to skip a lot of the mandatory equipment, which made it possible to actually pretty much race with the equipment that would be available today. And that made the race so much faster in all aspects. And after having done, I think, actually 1 or 2 years with the bicycle, just to make sure that people actually finished the race, I think in 2010 was the first year we were back to sort of like the ÖTILLÖ that we would recognize today. I mean, no biking, only swimming and running. And I mean, from that point, I would say in 2010, I mean, it really took off. Like it took off on such a major scale that it really gained a lot of notoriety, and it's been a pleasure to see ever since.
Yeah, you've seen such an evolution from, what we talked about just a few moments ago to now we're having people go sub 8 hours, setting new course records with Oscar and Adriel just lighting it up last year. Yeah. What do you kind of attribute the big improvements with speed to? Is it more specific training? Is it gear? What have you seen out there on the course year over year as things start to really heat up at the pointy end?
The people are just better prepared for the race. People treat it with a lot more respect. I mean, back in the day, the guys that won, I mean, the year I won, 2008 through 2010, I raced with triathletes, and we just came with our normal triathlon training for this race. And I mean, obviously that's not optimal. And we were not the best teams today are super even. Like they're 2 equally fast partners, both swimming and running. Whereas I always raced with someone who was probably, especially in the swimming, slightly slower than me in the water. And we never had like a pulling system. Like I would wait quite a bit during each swim for my, because I was always in really good swim shape. And so the teams are just more sort of equally paired, and people prepare specifically for ÖTILLÖ. Like it's the guys that win, like Adriel and Oscar, it's their major goal for the year. Like it's the major crown jewel in their whole sort of agenda.
Race calendar.
Yeah, the whole race calendar, and people just train more specifically. They train swimrun. I never trained swimrun in the past. The equipment is also geared a little bit. I mean, with the pool boys, we never had pool boys for the first few years. I always had like something that would float my calves, stuff like I would actually cut strips of like what do you call those? Like a camping mattress kind of thing.
Oh yeah, like a sleep pad or something.
Yeah, like a styrofoam kind of thing. Like I would cut strips and shove that down my socks. And so no one ever swam with pool boys, and the hand paddles were not optimum either. So and the wetsuits were just cut off normal triathlon wetsuit. So we could never like do the cab down. So we would actually I would strip my wetsuit off when it was too hot and then put everything back on. And so we were just slower. We took a lot more time. We weren't fast getting in and out of the water. And I mean, the guys like Oscar and Adriel, I mean, they're definitely at least equally strong athletically as I ever was. And they're so much faster in everything swim run related, like getting in and out of the water and stuff like that. And they run a lot faster in some of the technical terrain, which I never did.
Yeah, I mean and I think, you know, kind of to that point, I think you see people sort of that train specifically for swim run and consider themselves swim runners. But I'm curious, in your view, like when did you think that started happening, where people were like, you know what, like, yes, I do triathlons or whatever, but like, I think, for example, Chipper and I, we would consider ourselves swim runners at this point, and all of our training is optimized to do this sport as, you know, as elegantly as
possible
two dads can do it.
Yeah, right.
When did you see that happening, sort of like specifically at ÖTILLÖ, where teams were showing up like you said, like this is the crown jewel of their race calendar, and they're taking this really seriously?
I would say, like, because there's been a number of really good triathletes, like pretty much all Swedish good triathletes, Ironman triathletes have been there in ÖTILLÖ, but they always did the triathlon as well. Like people would do Ironman Sweden in Kalmar, and then a few weeks after they would race ÖTILLÖ, or they had some other major race. But I think at some point I was like, and it kind of caught me off guard that like, I noticed that some people actually stopped doing triathlon, but they still trained vigorously, and they really sort of still were almost professional athletes, but they did like with the intent of racing ÖTILLÖ and even the ÖTILLÖ series. And I would say probably in 2015, 2016, around there was the first time where I had triathlon people quitting triathlon to go like full on with swimrun. And at that time, a lot of the series races were also up. Like ÖTILLÖ had a number of, I mean, they had Engadin, and they had I think they had the ones on the Isles of Scilly, and they had Utö, of course. And you know, during the years after, they added a few races with, you know, Germany and and a bunch of other races. So Malta.
So kind of in parallel with the expansion of the ÖTILLÖ World Series,
makes sense.
Distance and races, and then people started. I guess Strava was a thing back. Around that time. Yeah, Strava was like, people aren't riding their bike anymore. What's going on here? What's happening?
And I think also when they had this. I can't remember the term they used, but they had this crown, sort of the crown prize. Like if you won like a consecutive of 6 races, like Martin Flinta eventually won it with his female partner, the Czech girl. But if you win like 6 consecutive races or 7 races, you win this 100,000 euro or something like that. Or I can't remember.
George
a big chunk. It was a big chunk of money anyway. So
I
think it was like was it $100,000 or something like that?
Euros,
or euros, something.
or 60,000. I can't. It was quite a substantial amount anyway. But and I think it sent a message that swimrun is actually a major sport to be counted on. It's not just a fun sort of adventure that challenges you. It actually has some. It actually has some pedigree to speak of, also financially. And so I think a lot of things turned very positive in the 2015 and forward, where a lot of people treated this as and a lot of people went from being triathletes, quit triathlon, but kept training and went full on for swimrun. And so it's fascinating to see how much, and a lot of people I meet with and I talk to, and they're like, no, I'm not riding my bike anymore. Like it's, I have 2 kids, it takes too much time, and I'm not comfortable in traffic, and it's such a hassle. Yeah. And I'm gonna do a few swimrun races this year instead. So yeah, it's I think, if you've done I wouldn't say, I don't have anything bad to say about triathlon, because it's my major sport and I love triathlon, and I think it does have a lot of qualities, especially for people that never have done it. I think Ironman put on great races, but I do see, after having done the 1, 2, or 3 Ironman races, it's a natural development to sort of, it's a bucket list thing. Okay, I'm done with this, and I'm moving forward to something that is slightly less time consuming, but equally rewarding and equally fun. And that also allows me to bring my wife in, or my best friend in, or my brother in, or that is equally challenging, but much more changing. One course doesn't look like the other course. If you go to a triathlon in Cannes, or one in Malta, or one in wherever, they're pretty much going to look the same. You're going to ride, swim in the ocean, ride on a hard surface road, run around in the city somewhere. Pretty much that's, So,
and if they could make it downhill on every leg of the course, they would do that. If they downhill swim, that's a thing.
And they have the rules, and that's something for me as an organizer. I love organizing the swim run. I don't love the course marking course, because that takes, or the course marking task, because it takes such a long time to mark a swim run course. But I love the fact that no swim runner would ever ask, or no one would ever sort of refer to the rules. There are no rules. A triathlon always have this with the federation rules and stuff like that. Water temperature here, and the wetsuit rules there, and it's there's no such thing in swimrun. It's cold in the water, it's warm in the water. There is rain, there is wind, there is whatever. Deal with it. That's, everyone is aware of that, and they sign up with the absolute conviction that, this race is going to be held no matter what. Disregarding a pandemic, of course, but there are no ways. There's no way that I would ever shorten a swim in a swim run, because it's cold. You're there, and the conditions can vary, and it can be hard. So, yeah, triathlon is great, but it does have I can see people do it and then move on, and then there is swim run.
It's just different. Chipper and I, that's how we met, was through triathlon, and definitely a soft spot in my heart for triathlons. But at some point you're looking for something different, and like you mentioned, it was like you were just echoing everything I've been talking about for several years, which is just hey, if you're training for an Ironman, I got 2 young kids. I can't spend 6 hours on a bike on a Saturday. My daughter's going to be like, where are you going, Dad? It's I'm sorry, I got to go be selfish and try not to die on the road here. And make sure I don't bonk. But I think it's a good segue to think about to what we really want to ask you about, which is hey, we're 2 months out from this course. We know it's going to be challenging. We're going in open-eyed. No delusions of anything amazing, other than we're going to be as prepared as possible going to the start line.
Right.
But I'm curious, from your perspective of having started all of them, how do you approach being 2 months out from a race of this magnitude? What are you doing in training? What are you doing sort of visualizing? How are you feeling about this race 2 months out?
Well, I don't want to sound overconfident, but I don't really, at this point in my life, I don't really do a lot of swim run prior to this race, as I'm not my major or my only goal at this, when I'm racing with my wife or with a friend or something, my only goal is to finish. So I'll just make sure that I'm strong, I'll do a lot of swimming with my with my paddles and stuff like that, and I do a lot of weights in the gym. And then I'll need to up my running and do a few distance workouts. But I'm very content on just finishing in whatever time, like last year, 11 and a half hours. And this year with my wife, maybe, will be happy if we can make the cutoff, because I'll be dragging her around the course. But for you guys that are, and I know exactly what the course holds, I know what I can expect on the course. So for me, it's just, I can handle it. But for you guys going into your first swim run and not having done the sport for too many years, I would say that just prepare for a really, really, really long day. First of all, I mean, it's unless you're really fast, I mean, I'd say at least 10 hours, probably up maybe, 12 or 13 hours for you guys as well, depending on what happens and what kind of day you have. And it's going to be like a super long day. You cannot expect, count on the weather and the conditions to be on the cold side. It's really hard to say. And personally, I've never found a swim run to be too cold. I always find it to be too warm. Like the risk of being overheated when running in a wetsuit far exceeds the risk of being too cold swimming. But I would say train with a few different equipment options. Train with some gear that would allow you to be accustomed to a hot day or like a reasonably warm day. Like I'd say water temperature at that time of year usually is around between 55 and 60 degrees. So not super cold by any means, but not very warm either. But it's a nice temperature to get in and do when you've run some. It can be colder too. Some years you're down to the low 50s and high 40s in the water temperatures. And obviously we're doing in the ocean. It can vary during the year, but usually beginning of September in Sweden is beautiful. Like it's crisp. It's not really cold, but it doesn't have the summer heat that, for instance, now we have like high 80s, almost 90 degree weather, and the sun is up all day. Like there is so much sunlight during the day in Sweden. In September, that have died down quite a bit. So, but I would just prepare for different options on what the weather is like, and I would favor something that is faster rather than overprotective, if you know what I mean. I would favor something that you may be a little bit cold at times, but you're going to run so much during the days, you're going to be warm anyway. In terms of actual training, I'd say focus on a lot of hard swimming with paddles and pull buoys. Like, for instance, a favorite set of mine that I recommend to a lot of people is, for instance, to do 30 times 100 long course meters, preferably, so you don't have to turn too much. Like 30 times 100 pulling with your actual paddles and pull buoy. You don't have to swim in your shoes, obviously, but just normal swimming, paddles and pull buoys, 30 times 100 with an interval send off that would give you maybe 10 or 15 seconds rest, and just like best average pace throughout the entire 3K session. So like do a short warm up, 500 meters, do the 30 times 100 and a short cool down, and you have a session of almost 4,000 meters. And I think that is a really good session, because for me, I actually get more tired swimming than running for this race, because on the swim there is no resting. You need to be able to move through every swim fast. You can't stop during the swim, because if you're tired and it's cold, you're going to get really cold. During any given run, you can always walk. During any given run, you can always go to the bathroom and stop, and you can deal with your gear. You can switch things. You can, okay, I have a small stone in my shoe, whatever. You can always stop, and there's no problem. Just keep going. But in the swim, you just got to keep moving forward, and it requires a certain speed to do so. And also, there may be headwind. There may be some currents. There was one year where we had a lot of waves and shit. So you need to be able to swim every single swim quite effectively and hard. So I'd say focus a lot on the swimming, a lot of swimming quality, like swim hard with pedals and pull buoys. Like 30 times 100 is a good session. I'd say another good session is maybe to do 40 times 50, where you go one interval easy, one interval almost all out. So like 40 times 50 on maybe a minute send off, long course meters, go just recreational one way and all out the other way. Recreational one way, all out coming back. So focus on quality swim sessions. Don't do too many long, slow swims. I mean, do a few really long, like I'm sure you're also doing some swim run sessions. So get a few solid 3 or 4 hour sort of swim run sessions with a lot of actual swimming, but focus a lot on pool swimming with your gear and like swim hard and get strong. Like maybe add some extra strength work for the upper body, because it actually makes a difference in my experience. Like there's, I mean, there could be challenging swim. The swims are challenging all the way up to the end, depending on the weather. And as like, if you get tired running, you can walk, and some of the terrain requires you to walk. But in the swim, if you don't have the fitness to actually being able to handle every swim fast, there may be problems. Like that's when people get too cold. And I always say that people that drop out of swim runs because they get frozen, it's usually always because they're not fit enough to swim hard. Like they're not good swimmers enough. Like there's nothing wrong with the weather. So just make sure to be in the best swim shape that you ever been. I mean, in terms of being strong, I mean, actual speed isn't that important. So, and I would say strength, it's like pretty much like Ironman racing. I mean, speed, unless you're Jan Frodeno or someone, is not a key factor. Being strong is a key factor. Being able to move effectively also on hour 10 and not just on the first hour. So, I mean, do some extra strength work, do some extra calf work, like calf races, do some hip flexor work. There is going to be a lot of tough terrain on ÖTILLÖ, like a lot of where you have to lift your legs in the wetsuit. my hip flexors are always blown after ÖTILLÖ, and that's from having to sort of walk and run in the wetsuit on some of these treacherous parts of the course. And so it's not really hard to train for. It's a long race. There aren't any hills to speak of. I mean, we're in the Archipelago. It's pretty flat. There are, obviously up and down a little bit, but
sure,
it's not at all like Catalina where you're basically going uphill for like half an hour. Not at all. Not at all.
You still remember that, huh?
Yeah, it's hard. That was a tough race. But ÖTILLÖ is tougher in a different way, because there's so much like you're off road doing bushwhacking.
Yeah.
You're basically following their marker through bushes, and like the subterranean is really different, hard, and you're always going out on a slippery rock or getting up on a slippery rock. So also a good thing to practice.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate, I guess. We train here in the San Francisco Bay Area, so Aquatic Park is always around that 50 to 58 degree temperature there, and all the swim runs that we've been doing have been no easy swimming. Charge in, don't dilly dally on the transitions, and do a hard race effort swim 500, 600 yards, then come out and get your run in.
Yeah, you guys are going to be fine temperature wise, I'm sure. But one thing also to be aware of is that, you've done a number of swim runs, but something that has really sort of dawned on me on the past few years is that everyone on ÖTILLÖ is fast. Like there are no really slow teams. So whereas I used to always be first out of the water from the first swim, and now that I swim with some friends or with slower people, but even in 2018 I did the race with my training partner, and he's an equally good swimmer as I am, and we were in good shape, having done Ironman Sweden, and we were like 20th team out of the water for the first run. I was like, where do all these fast swimmers come from? And for the past few years, there has been someone on my hip or swimming into me or just interfering with my swim for the entire first swim. And that was never the case in the past. Like the first swim is the longest swim, and it basically takes most teams half an hour or more. And these days, like every team get in the water at the same time, and it's just crowded the entire time. So that's also something to be aware of. Like it's going to be very stressful in the beginning, because you're never going to feel the sort of, oh, okay, finally it opens up. Oh, okay, here's my sort of safe space swimming wise, and okay, I'm getting into my rhythm. I mean, for the past few years, the first swim has been boom, boom, and people are swimming over the line, and you're getting stuck with your hand paddle on someone else.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's just so, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's like the tension is pretty high. So so the key, I would say the key mentally as well. I mean, you guys are pretty cool. So just de-dramatize the whole experience in the beginning. I mean, there are a lot of serious fast teams up there, and they run. I mean, when the start gun goes, boom, they run super fast, and just keep in the back a little bit, and just roll with the punches, and just sort of get into the race, and just start the race with very low tension, if you know what I mean. It's not a sprint race; it takes all day. And I see some teams getting off the ferry and doing warm-up runs and all stuff, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit on the ferry until 5 minutes before the start, and then I'll casually walk up to the start, because I'll be warming up for the first hour or so here anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good question in terms of I'm curious your thoughts on kind of like, I mean, we're already talking about it, kind of like your race day strategy. I mean, we've gotten a lot of advice leading up to it, but I'd love to hear about. I mean, I love the idea of just staying poised. Try to not get too worked up about it. The first run and swim. I mean, for me, always like whenever I'm nervous, I'm always nervous at the start of a swim run, but it's always like after the first swim, that's when I'm like, okay, now we're swim running kind of thing.
Yeah. Back into the flow of
in your view, kind of like let's just talk about sort of like getting to that first cutoff, getting to, to Num Da, getting through Orno. Like in your view, what would be like a good sort of mental strategy to think about how you're moving through the course?
Right. Yeah. Well, the first few hours are going to be very slow. Like the slowest running is in the beginning. So unless you're prepared for that, it's going to take a mental toll out of you. Like you can see the time goes by, and you're like 2 hours in, and you haven't really covered a lot of ground on the map. So just be prepared that the first few hours, actually getting to the having reached the first major aid stations or the time check is where, like, you hit the first major island where you're running on gravel roads. That's where you're actually starting to make some serious ground on the map. But the first 5 or 6 islands are really treacherous. Like, they're super slow. You're basically bushwhacking. You're ducking under branches, and you're tripping over things, and there are rocks and stuff like that. And just be sort of prepared that you're going to move slow in the beginning, and not getting stressed over that. And I mean, looking into any swim run, what's the task at hand here? It's to complete the stage ahead of you. Like, here's the swim. Let's do this swim. Okay, let's do this run. Okay, we're putting that behind us. Okay, we're heading into this run. We're heading into this swim. So it's really just break the race up into very manageable stages. Like, and be sure to study study the map and study the different parts of the race a little bit beforehand. And I never write anything down anymore because I have it all in my head. But do the typical
you
archetype.
get the pass on that.
But write every single sort of part of the race on your hand paddles. Keep one person in charge of the swimming and one guy in charge of the running, and just go, okay, next swim. Okay, next swim coming up 300 meters. Next swim. Okay, next run coming up 4.2 kilometers, and so forth. So, and just knock those off. Just focus on the next one. Just focus on the next one, because the race in its total, it's too long to get a grasp on, and it will be frustrating in the beginning, because you're like, shit. We're 2 hours in, 3 hours in. We haven't covered any ground yet. We have all the long running left. We have a ton of long swimming. So don't stress, and just, be steady the whole time, and just keep moving. That's also a major, like, triathlon key to finishing. Never stop unnecessarily. I need to go to the bathroom. All right, do that, and do it, like, sort of do it properly. And I need to take a serious. I need to eat some. I need an extra minute to eat something substantial here. Yeah, go ahead, do that. Fill up. I need to bring some fluid. Yeah. So make sure to spend time on the right places. Other than that, just keep moving. And major rule the best rule of them all is just have fun with a lot of the other teams. I've never been to any other race where people are so talkative and so willing to engage and so willing and actually looking for company. Like on the second half of the course, any team you'll pass will want to talk to you and tag on to whatever you're doing, or just talk to you to fight the boredom of the race, so to speak. Or like, where are you guys from? Oh, you're from California. Oh, so cool. Who are you? Oh, you're the low tide guy. You're the low tide boys. Oh, that's awesome. A ton of people are going to know about you. And so people are really committed to helping each other. And so teams will team up and become sort of bigger teams. And they will actually wait for each other. Like if you... like, okay, come on, let's do this swim. We'll wait for you on the other side, and let's keep going together. So there's a lot of camaraderie on this race, and that's.
I mean, how great is that? I mean, we talk about how swimrun is the coolest thing in the world, but this is like the World Championship, and everyone's still like. I mean, we're definitely going in with the perspective of like, hey, we're going to take this super seriously, preparing. But when we're on the race, we've mentioned this before on the show. It's like. I mean, this is a huge deal for us. I mean, we talk about the sport so much. This is the original course. It's like going to like holy ground, like going through the course that you've done all these years and all these other amazing athletes have done and amazing people have done. So to be able to be on there for us is going to be a real thrill. And I think that it'll take away from that if we're just like, oh, we got to hit like 10 hours or have some ridiculous goal. Like honestly, like if we could hand out stickers during the race, we would probably be doing that.
Just focus on finishing. I mean, there are obviously a few teams like gunning for victory and stuff like that, and they'll be off in the distance. I mean, before you even have.
We're not worried about that.
Yeah, exactly. There are a few teams that don't go for it, but I mean, even through that, people are. In my experience, all the way to the top. I mean, people are very friendly and helpful to each other, and I think that's really something that is unique with swimrun, especially compared to, for instance, triathlon. Because you'll see people finishing an Ironman and be kind of dissatisfied. I mean, they're kind of, oh, damn it, I missed my time and I bonked on the run, and or just complaining about the shit. Oh, they were drafting and this and this and this. And that's something I never ever experienced. Yeah, I mean, maybe people have their reasons, I guess, for some, but it's so focused on time. Like you can always compare, like an Ironman time of 9 hours and 10 hours. You can communicate that, and people, you can transfer that and understand, and people really fixate on that. But on swimrun, people are just happy to finish. It's like and it's about surviving the course, and it's about getting from point A to point B in one piece without having without getting injured. And if you can help someone on the way to also get there, I mean, you're even better off. Like, okay, well done for not only getting yourself and your partner over there, but also helping another team that was fighting and struggling. So that's something very unique and special. And I think Mats and Micke, they really embody that, and they really lift that spirit, and they sort of it's an important and it's an important part of the whole experience for them, that people feel that and come to Sweden and because I mean, these days there are so many international teams, and they want everyone, and I do too, because I feel part of I feel very like a very strong part of this heritage, and for me it's very important. Like I couldn't be happier than welcoming you guys here, and it's such a great thing that we have this weird sport. And I was part of the first race, and have done it ever since. And now I have people, coming in from California, traveling all the way to Sweden just to spend an entire day swimming and running in the Archipelago. And it's nothing could make me happier than that. It's so much fun.
Yeah, for sure. And it's I'm actually going to be, from my research, I'm going to be the first Puerto Rican ever to line up at the World Championship, which that doesn't mean anything. No one in Puerto Rico knows about this, but it's kind of crazy to be the first of anything. I'm
the first guy named Chipper, I
think. There you go. There ought to be some special reward for you guys. Yeah, it's good. It's very, very cool. And just the whole thing is to survive, and by that I also mean make sure you don't hurt yourself. Both, of course, in train. I mean, that's for any endurance sport, I mean, get to the start line healthy and fit. That's the main. I mean, don't get sick and don't mess yourself up with stupid training, and don't hurt yourself. I mean, take manageable risks in training and on the race course. So with that said, the fast teams, I mean, they run so fast in the train, but they also do take risks, and people do hurt themselves. So my tip is for you guys, take an extra 20 seconds to make sure you have a good hand grip and a good foot grip, and make sure you just go a little bit slower in the water, go a little bit slower over that tricky section. Make sure that you have your balance before climbing up on that rock and so forth. And, just spend a little bit extra time to minimize the risks of hurting yourself. And I think that's a good idea.
I've definitely been hearing that.
I mean, the whole idea is to get to the finish line where it all, where it's you do that last run on Ornö. It's such a great feeling. Like you've done the last swim, you've done the last sort of climbing on rocks for the day, and you're like, I'm running on a gravel road. There's not a lot of things that can actually happen from this point on. I just have to keep running, and I'm, in a few kilometers, and it's such an awesome feeling. Like every time, I'm almost always crying on that. Like I can't hold my feelings together, because it's just it is a challenging race. Like for me, I have to remind myself of how hard it is, because I have so many great and fond memories. But even just participating as I do these days, like I'm not pushing myself intensity wise. I'm just finishing, but I got to keep reminding myself, it's such a long day. It's such a hard race. There are so many things that can go wrong. There are so many challenges. There are so many sections that is potentially dangerous, or you have to be turned on in order to do it. You can't leisurely just stroll through the race. It takes a lot out of you, and it's regardless of how you do it. When I raced and won it, I was like someone had run me over with a garbage truck the day after, and now that I sort of just try to finish it, same thing. It's like someone took me to a cage fight and pounded on me for hours on end.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh man, such sound advice. Such sound advice.
Yeah, you're gonna have a great time here, and just take it seriously. Take the training seriously, but come here with a very sort of laid back. Come here with the intent of really having a good time. That's my best tip. Like, come here do the work prior. Be very fit. Be prepared. Have good. Make sure you have all the gear sorted and everything. But when you come here, just like be very relaxed in the sort of appreciation of what you're actually about to do, and don't take the actual race too seriously. Just be out there and go like, wow, this is so cool. This is such an experience, and let's actually spend half an hour extra out here just to let's get our money's worth a little bit more here. We
pay good money to be out here. Let's hang out. Our mantra the whole time has been, we're training like we're going to war and to battle, but when we get there, we're at Disneyland. That's sort of what we've been saying is like,
it's a good
we're
thing.
going to be there. We're going to enjoy our time out there. And hopefully along the way, we remember to stop and like look around and like take in the awe of the situation as well.
It's going to be so amazing.
Yeah.
So
really
be aware. I mean, make sure that you have some precaution, because you're going to be very jet lagged when you come over here. I mean, maybe try to adjust a little bit before, so it's not a total shock for you. If you have a few days with really bad sleep, can be detrimental. So just be aware that it's a 9-hour time change, so it's pretty hard traveling. You guys are traveling east, and that's always tough for anyone.
Yeah,
sure.
So make sure
we're staying out of the clubs in Sweden.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun.
That.
There's a lot of fun to be had in Stockholm, and maybe bring some extra nutrition along. I mean, ÖTILLÖ puts on a great race, but I know some competitors think that some of the aid stations are a little bit scarce at time. I mean, especially if you compare to an Ironman race, it's they can be on
the buffet.
They can be on the minimalistic side sometimes. So, I mean, it's always been enough for me. But I'm just saying that if you're if you need maybe a lot of energy, or if you have some specific requirements, just put those
Take care of
gels.
yourself.
Carry those gels along with you, or if you need if you know that you need extra salt tablets or minerals or whatever, I mean, just bring that as well. But
noted.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time here, and you guys are getting me fired up. And the first thing I'm gonna do after these podcasts is I'm gonna get up and remind my wife Elin to get out and do a run, because we talked about it. It's like, it's July 1st, Elin. This is a great day to start your training and everything. I'll watch the kids.
Love it.
Get out and do.
I love it.
Do one lap around the lake. Just get out there and do a few kilometers. We can't give in on ÖTILLÖ just yet. We need to go there. The low tide boats are going to be there.
You already wrote the swim set, 30 by 100.
Yeah, she's done that a few times. Yeah, so yeah.
Love it.
But she needs to start slow.
Well, Jonas, we've kept you for almost an hour. We can't thank you enough for your support of us, for being willing to come on the show, for your enthusiasm. I mean, you got us. We're super stoked. Yeah. You got us super stoked for this race. We can't wait to meet you. See you again.
Yeah,
I already met you. See you in person, and have a few laughs and yeah, just thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, as I said, the pleasure is all mine. I'm so happy that, the way that this sport brings people together, and the way that this sport enthuses, makes people enthusiastic about things like this. And swimrun it's something that is 100% positive in all aspects. I can't find a single negative aspect of the community that ÖTILLÖ has built, and the sort of the greater sport of actual swimrun. And I'm so happy to see that the sport is beginning to gain a small foothold in the US, and we hopefully over the next few years it will be even more traction to the sport, and we can keep building this beautiful sport and everything that all the core values that it embodies. So
I love it. Yeah, and one of these years, I'm speaking for Chipper here. We promise we'll come out to Boras and do your swim run.
Oh, you'd love that race. That race actually has more similarities with Catalina than it does to ÖTILLÖ. It's a tough race. There's a lot of not a lot of long climbs like Catalina, but we do have a beautiful course here in Borås, and you guys are more than welcome to be my guests here in Borås.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks again for your time.
Good luck.
See you on the 5th.
Yeah, good luck with training, and we'll meet when you guys arrive to Sweden.
Sounds
good.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, Jonas.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swimrun.
Sign up for our newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for the show or questions for us, send us a DM or an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of all our swimrun activities, podcast, and other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff.
Way
to keep it PG. Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Go for a run.
Then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then another run.
And then just keep going. Until you're done.
Or maybe can't stop.